Good day, everybody. Dave Walker here, founder of the Beta SMB Institute. And I was anxious to bring to the audience this event people who are just as passionate as we are, if not more so, about small business, but come at it from the angle of policy and resources and the things that are not the sale of a product or a service. They really are genuinely a give back to small business. So I'm really pleased and proud to welcome the team from Small Business Majority, which was founded by John Ahrensmeyer. John, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And joined by members of his team, Brian Pfeiffer.
Everyone.
And finally, another member of the team, Xiomara Pena.
Hello.
So John, why don't you first of all give us the 411 on you, and then you are welcome to toss it over to either member of your team, and we can get to know you guys a little bit.
Well, thanks, Dave, and thanks for having us, and really eager to kind of share what our experience has been interacting with small businesses over the last 15 years. Really quickly about me, I've kind of done a number of things in my career. I was early on involved in politics and public policy. I worked for the mayor of Philadelphia, among others, and then decided to go legit, and I guess it's legit, and went to law school and practiced law for about 4 years. And then I had an opportunity to come out to California and as a chief operating officer of one of our clients who had started a pioneering multimedia business. So I did that. And after a couple of years, decided to start my own version of that, and that morphed into an internet-based interactive consulting firm where we work with a whole variety of clients in the higher education space, and later many in the financial services space. I sold that company, and kind of thought to myself, well, what do I want to do when I grow up? So I really, began to realize that I didn't believe that small businesses were being really well understood by the many constituencies that were important to them. Yes, in the political world, I didn't believe they were understood. I didn't believe they were understood even, by others in the business world, particularly bigger business, and by the general public. Even though the general public, we all spend a lot of our day patronizing small businesses, really never thinking about what really are the needs of small business, what really drives small business. And so really decided that I wanted to start an organization that focused on the particular needs of small business, both in a political public policy context and kind of in terms of resources and information. So I know we're going to talk about sort of where we are with Small Business Majority, so I'll stop there. But that's really what propelled me. It was this passion for really enabling people to understand small business needs better. And as we'll talk about that, started in the political sphere and public policy sphere, but has really become much broader than that over the last 15 years.
Terrific intro. So Brian, Xiomara, either one of you, tell us about yourself.
Sure, yeah. So my background is in community news and journalism, actually, and kind of from that vantage point, you can really see how important small business is to local communities. Also come from a family of small business owners, dad, mom, brother. So when I had the opportunity to get out of the journalism space and come over to Small Business Majority, I really saw, the importance of the mission and how important these businesses are to their towns and the broader economy. And so currently I'm Vice President of Entrepreneurship for the organization. I oversee kind of all of our education and resources, our website, venturize.org, which kind of houses all of our resources and connections to different technical assistance providers, lenders, and other resources that small businesses need to survive right now. And since the pandemic, have become kind of the in-house resident PPP expert, trying to help businesses navigate kind of all the various federal relief programs, EIDL, et cetera, going on. With that, I'll turn it over to Zio.
Terrific.
Hi, Ziomara Pena. I'm currently the Vice President of Engagement here at Small Business Majority. A little bit about me. I'm the daughter of two immigrants, my mother from Honduras, my dad from Mexico. They leveraged entrepreneurial skills when they immigrated here to make a life for themselves and to be able to bootstrap and start a financial security for their own family, like many of the business owners that we connect with today. Um, that taught me very valuable lessons about the power of being connected to an ecosystem and being disconnected. As bilingual speakers may not have access to traditional chambers or technical assistance centers. I then went on to work for the mayor's office. I did some internship work with a city council member, which taught me invaluable lessons about what it means to understand the constituencies and put local policies in place to support families and small businesses. I worked on a revitalization project in the San Fernando Valley, helped to serve a congressional I helped to lead a congressional campaign to elect the first Latino representative in the San Fernando Valley. And then started my own business at the age of 19, which also taught me some invaluable skills. It's very, very hard to run your own shop. But when I had the opportunity to work for a local nonprofit in communities like Compton and South LA and Inglewood, that taught me really about the systemic barriers that exist for a lot of working families and people of color. And then the opportunity presented itself to join the team here at Small Business Majority and have had the opportunity and pleasure to work here for 7 years in a variety of different roles, and currently looking to serve our small business community and our entrepreneur community and embed equity and center equity at the core as we think about, especially now as a result of the pandemic, what it takes to rebuild an economy that is truly inclusive and works for all. So there's a little bit about the background there. Turning it back over to you, Dave.
Listen, what a great team. Just a great team, you guys. I think this interview is going to go long because there's so many questions I've got for each of you from your different perspective. But I think we owe it to our audience to John, tell the story. I mean, you're the founder of Small Business Majority. I understand why you did it, but what was it that you actually did when you started Small Business Majority? What was the service that you were delivering?
Well, Dave, that's a great question. I had a passion for kind of starting an organization, running an organization that really did a much better job of expressing the needs of small business. And initially, given the fact I'd been involved in politics, public policy early in my career, I really felt there was a need to inject small business voices properly into the public policy space. It took, we sort of dabbled around a number of issues for a little bit, but it really took sort of having one singular issue to focus on to kind of get us rolling. And started the organization in California, even though we've always been a national organization. And in 2007, there was a big, as anyone in California remembers, there was a big push for healthcare reform. It was bipartisan. It was sparked by the Democratic-led legislature and the Republican governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it was a really serious effort. And it gave me, an opportunity to kind of test out some of my thoughts about how the organization might be built. And what we soon learned going into it has really become the basis for everything we've done ever since, although as we're going to talk about, it's evolved quite a bit. And that is combining research, scientific research into small business needs, really finding out what small businesses want and care about with the voices of a diverse group of small business owners, particularly smaller small businesses, although we really, we say that we sort of represent the needs of businesses up to 100 employees, but understanding there's a pyramid of so many, 80% of them have only 10 employees or fewer. Anyway, so we combined some really good research we did into the perceptions and needs of small businesses about healthcare, as well as really finding small businesses across the state who could talk about this and talk about the need for healthcare reform. And we projected those voices into the debate. And long story short, the effort did not materialize. It was really due to a combination of factors, particularly some sort of inside Sacramento political issues that got in the way. But it became the basis for us engaging in the national effort to pursue healthcare reform that obviously evolved into the move to pass the ACA in 2009, 2010. Something we were at the center of, and again, doing just incredible amounts of research in states across the country, building the voices of small businesses, and working with, and this is very important, working with partners. And I know we're going to talk more about that. Something Zio in particular is very focused on right now is working with partners to make sure that our position was understood and they can help protect our vision as well. Mm-hmm. So that was how we got going. We after the ACA passed, we branched into other issues: access to capital, taxes, workforce benefits, a whole host of other issues we've been involved with. And then we realized after doing that we could not only work on public policy, but we could spend a lot of time in educating and informing small businesses about issues out there like healthcare, like access to capital. And again, we're going to get into more detail about that. So from those initial beginnings, the organization emerged into multi-issue and to multi-focus beyond just public policy.
It sounds like once you got that voice right for that single issue, was it relatively easy to just transfer it over into other issues? The mechanics of it kind of worked easily.
I mean, it was, you always have to learn other issues. And we, while we don't start off being the biggest experts in any area, we pretty much have to become somewhat experts in areas that we dive into. We certainly did that with healthcare. We've done that with access to capital now. So you have to learn the issue, you have to learn the landscape, you have to learn the players, you have to learn, and you have to learn the specific needs and concerns of small businesses in that particular area. But you're right. Once we sort of had the formula of combining research with really talking to and engaging the voices of real small business owners, that did become a model that we were able to transfer not only into other issues in the public policy front, but into a whole program of entrepreneurship that Brian runs, of educating and informing and providing resources to small businesses. So yeah, that once, and I would say, I think this probably works for most companies, most organizations. Once you have kind of a base, a formula that's kind of works at some level, you want to then, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You want to take that formula, you want to take that base, and you want to expand it to expand your work into areas that are going to help your constituency even more.
So a great segue, Brian, to you. Talk a little bit about in your role as VP of Entrepreneurship, which is my favorite title of the week, by the way. I love that title. I really am curious as to what kinds of resources are you providing to, and what direction does it flow? Is it really to the policymakers? Is it to the small businesses? Is it both?
Yeah, so kind of as John alluded to, as we started work in the policy space in our early years, we started to identify and engaging with small businesses around these particular issues. We started to also hear about their other needs, and the top one was access to capital and additional needs around, how to manage their workforce, the lack of benefits, not just healthcare, but other benefits that smaller businesses are unable to offer because of cost or complexity, et cetera. So in 2015, we kind of launched our formal entrepreneurship program, which is really focused on providing a high-level overview of topics that we have found through our interactions with businesses to be top of mind for them, right? Mm-hmm. And to help them navigate these issues and find resources, trusted, vetted resources that can help them with these issues. In terms of access to capital, there's definitely policy components to the work that we do. Mm-hmm. With access to capital, we saw the rise in online lending starting in 2013, and a lot of kind of unsavory products being offered in the marketplace. So part of our education was to educate folks about, what's a good product versus one that's going to cause you trouble, and help them kind of navigate that and steer clear of products that might put their business under. So our education is working with partner organizations to come in and provide this education to their members, and bringing in the partners that provide the kind of one-on-one service. When we talk about access to capital, we work with a lot of nonprofit CDFI lenders, or technical assistance provider if the business owner is not quite in a position for debt financing, bringing in a technical assistance provider who can help them figure out their business plan, or get their paperwork in order to apply for a loan. What we found, especially with the populations we aim to serve, is that folks aren't always aware of all of the low cost or free resources available in their communities to help them. So we try to serve as that navigator for folks, providing them with the framework to understand the issue and where to go to get the next step that they need.
Just a quick question. Did that challenge of finding that information become particularly acute this past year for small business?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think with the federal programs, in particular PPP, if you didn't have an existing banking relationship or an accountant or a lawyer, which many small businesses don't, it was very difficult for them to get connected to the PPP opportunity. So that was a big component of our outreach this spring and summer, is helping folks figure out, okay, here's some options on where to go. Here's what PPP is all about. Here's what you need. And here are some of the nonprofit lenders we work with, some of the online lenders we work with, started to offer PPP. So we try to help for folks who didn't have an existing banking relationship get connected to those folks.
Fascinating. Xiomara, okay, you've got the word engagement in your title. And I think many in our audience would agree that's the toughest job when it comes to small business, because no matter how you cut it, you kind of have to engage one at a time. There is no real cookie cutter solution. Talk to me about your job. Talk to me about your role. Talk to me about how I would imagine you are a big conduit of feedback from the small business community into your organization.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to just one more thing in terms of the flow of information. Small Business Majority also had a daily portal, COVID-19 portal, where we dumped a lot of resources. It was an incredibly challenging time. I would also say that for business owners that spoke multiple languages, if English wasn't the primary language, that's also something that we were able to do on Venturize, was translate our materials and our information and connect folks to grant opportunities and resiliency funds that were also established as part of the CARES Act. So it just, again, multitude of different resources. So in my role as engagement, Vice President of Engagement, one of the things that I take with me is the many years of experience that I've had working on the ground with business owners. So we have, over the years, I've been able to work directly engaging business owners in pilots. And yes, David, it is very challenging to meet business owners where they are, but that is also part of the uniqueness of Small Business Majority, is being able to collaborate with a broad range of cross-sector organizations, whether it's an advocacy organization or a business technical assistance organization or a lender, traditional or even a fintech lender that is a responsible lender and a transparent lender. It's bringing folks that wouldn't typically communicate to the table. And so part of the work is developing these relationships with partners that are also trusted in their respective communities, whether it's with the Latino community, whether it's with the Black business community. Those relationships are key and core to our collaborative structure and working with a variety set of groups. On understanding the needs of small business owners, our research, I want to point back to what John was mentioning. Our research is key, but we also host focus groups, listening sessions, We have a lot of one-on-one calls with business owners. Our outreach team is, our boots on the ground. And right now everything's being done virtually. But our first webinar in response to COVID was just 2 days after the WHO organization classified this as a worldwide pandemic. And so we were very responsive. We were getting indicators as early as January and February from some of our technical assistance organizations that primarily work with the Asian community, that this was going to be a challenge and this was going to be a big obstacle for growth, for business, I don't think any of us expected it to go on this long, and we'll continue to see how this unfolds. But being that relational with our business owner community is incredibly important. We also have a national small business owner council. And so we meet on a monthly basis with a core group of business owners from across the country. We understand what are their top of mind issues, and we're able to share with them the policy developments and gather input. And so again, while we might have these opportunities to engage business owners in more formal settings like a focus group or a listening session, I think that having that consistent communication with our base and our network allows them to also present top of mind issues to us as well. And so that's something that we pride ourselves in.
And I imagine that creates, again, a great feedback mechanism into the organization of what really to focus on.
Absolutely.
John, give me a sense of scale and reach that Small Business Majority has earned over the last 15 years.
Well, a couple of things I can cite. We have a network of over 70,000 small businesses, and a variety of levels of connection, excuse me, with them. But that has increased about 20% just in the last 6 months, and of those new 12,000 or so people, that is they're very engaged because of what's going on. And in fact, we found the network in general is way more engaged than ever before. We have I mentioned partnerships, and this is something that Zio's really responsible for growing and managing. But we have active partnerships with more than 1,000 organizations out there who also serve the small business community, either as local chambers of commerce, as technical assistance providers, as lenders, CFIs, and others. And we have active relations with them, and we, particularly in the last 6 months, but in general, we do joint events with them. We work together to bring small businesses together. If we work with a local chamber, we're working with their members as well as people we may know in the same community. We have a staff of about 25 people now. We have, as Ziamara put it, boots on the ground, although it's boots on the computer now, in 8 states, going west to east. California, we have 4 offices. Colorado, Illinois, we also do a lot of work in Wisconsin from Illinois. DC, of course, we have a pretty big DC office, and we actually do work in Maryland, and particularly in Virginia from there. And then we have a new office in Atlanta, Georgia that we just opened. The places where we have boots on the ground, we're the most active, but we have relationships with business owners and with partner organizations in all 50 states. We have media, by the way, we haven't talked about our media work. We do a lot of media. We've had probably over 20,000 articles since we began in the media, 1,500 to 2,000 just in the last 6 months alone. And we've gotten stories in every market around the country. So those are the biggest metrics, but it's the business ownership, the partnerships, and the team, which is working out of multiple offices across the country.
And it sounds like you're particularly when it comes to informing policy, that you guys are working at a federal level, you're working at a state level, you're working at a local level. Is that correct?
Yeah, very much on the federal level, and very much on the state level in the states where we have team members: California, Colorado, Illinois, Georgia, Virginia, Wisconsin. And yes, on the federal level, local level, sometimes I think Zio can actually talk to that even better than I can, because we've probably done more on a local level in LA than anywhere else, given its size and its diversity. But yes, we were able to jump in and work with policymakers, bringing small business owners to the table to talk to policymakers. We're able to do that on a whole bunch of levels, national, state, and local.
ZMR, I want to put a pin in that. I want to put a pin in the local engagement, because I think that is a huge opportunity, frankly, for everyone in our spaces, SMB advocates or purveyors. But Brian, to you, can you give us kind of an overview of the research that you do, kind of the highlights of the research that you do, because obviously it's a ton, and particularly the research that you've been doing the last year, or since COVID started, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a number of different tools and methods we use for our research that we've been doing since the beginning of the organization. In the past 6 months, we've been primarily focused on conducting surveys of our own 70,000 person network once a month, kind of about what their top needs are right now. We wanted to understand, how people were able to access the federal relief programs, how they're struggling, if they're struggling with their mortgage or their rent, if they're considering closing their business for good, how they're, furloughing or laying off employees.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been conducting those surveys every month. Great response. People are very interested in sharing their voice with us, which we then use to, inform the policymakers considering, say, the next round of PPP, what businesses' challenges are. Just some top level highlights of that snapshot of research. 6 in 10 have told us that they're struggling with their commercial rent mortgages. We see that as a big issue in the next few months. Nearly half of small business owners said that without additional relief, whether it's in the form of second round of PPP or what we've been advocating for is more direct grant assistance, forget this forgivable loan stuff, just give businesses direct cash. Nearly half say that they would close within the next 6 months permanently if they don't receive that. 35% have had to tap into their personal retirement savings to keep their business afloat, and 16% are considering bankruptcy. And we've had pretty good oversamples of Black and Latino entrepreneurs. And we saw, the access to PPP and EIDL significantly less, specifically for the Black population. 23% who did not receive PPP or EIDL loans said their application was denied, compared to 9 to 10% for the other demographic groups. So that's one aspect of the research we do. ZMR also mentioned our polling. We will work with national polling companies to get more national representative samples of small businesses, and have done a number of polls over the years on a variety of issues and topics. We conduct focus groups, either working with companies that help us form the panels, or form the panels out of our personal network and conduct those focus groups ourselves. The one-on-one interviews or kind of small group, interviews or discussions with small businesses. Over the years, we've done economic research, analysis of other existing data sets. We've looked at one study we did showed that I think it was half of enrollees in the individual marketplaces on the ACA were either small business owners or work for a small business or were self-employed. So just a variety of different methods that we have, and conducted a whole lot of research over the years.
And is that accessible to only to membership? Or is it accessible to anyone? Are you liberal in sharing it? Do you sell it? How would our audience tap into some of the research that you've been doing, I guess is the short
absolutely. Much of our research is available on our main smallbusinessmajority.org website under our research. We have worked with both private clients on kind of smaller market studies or focus groups on particular products or research that they wanted. But we don't paywall some research for a particular set of membership. Just to clarify, we're not exactly a membership organization. Our network is just businesses that we have reached over the years, whom we stay engaged with. But we don't, we're not a membership organization ourselves. We don't charge dues because that interferes with our ability to work with the chambers and the other membership groups and associations that we do work with. We don't want to be seen as attempting to, try to sell their members on our membership, right? So that's kind of key to our ability to collaborate across the spectrum with a number of different groups.
And if it's not obvious, important to mention that you guys are a not-for-profit.
Correct.
So, Ziamara, coming back to you, I have two questions for you, and they're different questions. So the first one is, I really do want to kind of understand a little bit about the local engagement that you are able to foster and manage, frankly, with local small businesses, and what are the things that really go into doing that, and what are the things that you learn from that?
So on local engagement, I think that one of the things that we pride ourselves on, again, is our outreach team. Our communications team supports our outreach team, our engagement team supports our outreach team, but our outreach team members really are able to map out the ecosystem. And when we talk about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, we're talking about the traditional technical assistance providers, perhaps those membership driven organizations or spaces where business owners may network with each other. And then in addition, we talk about alternative lenders and CDFIs and other organizations that are more mission driven and perhaps connected to their entrepreneurial community. And so
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what's a CDFI? Because some in our audience might not know what that is exactly.
Community Development Financial Institution. These are mission-driven lenders that provide low-cost capital to entrepreneurs and business owners that may not be able to access that kind of lending through a traditional bank. And most of them do tend to lend under $250,000. And we know that a majority of small businesses are typically looking for capital under $150,000. And so their underwriting practices and their processes might be more accessible to some of the small business communities. And quite frankly, with a lot of the business owners that we work with that may have a lack of credit access, that may have not been in business for a minimum of 3 years, that may not have significant collateral to their name. And so these community development financial institutions are really those organizations that are visible to the community in terms of being resources of where you can go when the bank says no. But many of them are smaller and they do need additional resources to get the word out about their products. Our role is being able to strategically identify how to connect with partners to collaborate and meet the needs of small business owners. On a local level, what that looks like, oftentimes it means identifying some of the issue areas that we're going to be working on, so access to capital or workforce, and aligning ourselves with some of those groups that may have also trusted networks that we can collaborate with. Once we build out a program or a partnership model, and I'll give one example because I think this is really, really helpful. Last year, we ran a pilot in South Los Angeles, specifically with the undocumented community. And we ourselves provided a lot of the content. We helped plan and design the program and the structure. And we worked with one local nonprofit that primarily does community-based organizing. They meet the needs of community members through case management services. They have a one-stop family source center, which provides like case management services, childcare resources, and other things. We worked with a workforce development center that provides on-the-job training, access to tax credits at the state and local level, at the federal level as well. They have relationships with a lot of business owners of color, as well as job seekers that may be looking at entrepreneurship as a viable pathway to building economic mobility. And we worked with another organization that does credit repair for folks that have had impacted credit. So we strategically thought, how can we reach the undocumented community in a rapid way, in a way that is responsible, in a way that it's also leveraging the trust that those local partners have, because I may not be able to work in that community for an extended period of time because of the massive scale that we serve. And so that was an incredibly successful program. We had over 50 people apply. We only had room for about 25 in our cohort. We were able to connect with one of our partners to give folks micro grants after a Shark Tank style competition. It was a really unique program. And in other spaces in Chicago, we've done boot camp series and boot camp models where we also come in and work with a number of partners. We might provide some of the content. Another partner might provide another piece of content, technical assistance, hands-on technical assistance, like working on your business plan. So needless to say, partnerships are everything for our organization. And then business owners also are able to share what they with their networks, and that peer validation is also incredibly powerful.
So you said the word partnership, so thank you. Great segue, because my second question to you, different question, was the partnerships and support that you get or don't get from large enterprises who, many times on a national scale are selling to small businesses, i.e. our members. Do you find, do you connect with them? Are you able to draw support from them in the form of grants? Are you able to draw from them support in the form of content for some of these workshops that you do? I'm just curious.
Well, I'm actually going to turn that over to Brian, because I know that he has led quite a bit of our conversations with large corporate partners. So Brian, do you want to answer?
Yeah, I mean, we've had successful partnerships with larger enterprises. Sometimes it's in the form of support for our organization. Sometimes it's in the form of content sharing or collaboration on developing a product for small businesses, or researching that need. I'd say that we often, in conversations with larger enterprises, they look to us for helping to understand what the small business needs are of their clients, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's gleaned through our 15 years of researching what they want and what their needs are. So, I'd say there's varying levels of support through large enterprises. Navigating them sometimes can be a little tricky. There's a lot of layers to mm-hmm. bigger businesses, but yeah, we've definitely seen some bigger companies step up, because I think they understand that small business is essential to the economy, to their business, and to the broader, their success. So mm-hmm. I think working on a symbiotic relationship is important. I think there's a lot larger business could do in terms of their own procurement policies, and whether they can, try and craft procurement policies that try to prioritize buying from small business, not just selling to them, mm-hmm. right? And also looking at other ways in which they can support their clients and their vendors, whether it's through, content-free workshops, free access to certain types of products. I know a number of companies, specifically since the crisis began, have been doing more of that. So we're kind of excited to see that recognition.
And that's, I guess, where, as we kind of wrap this up, John, what can the constituency that we represent do to give to you as good as they obviously are getting from you in the form of research and understanding of small business? How can they help?
I think to pick up what Brian said, I think there's even a much greater opportunity to blend the interests and needs of your members with the small business needs. And I think, I think we find talking to small businesses that they don't always feel that their needs are being directly met by a whole variety of, whether it's government, whether it's business, whether, and, we're in this, I think, rather unique situation where we have spent so much time researching and talking to and working with small businesses and with organizations that work and support small businesses, that I think we're in a very good position to help your members better understand how they can deliver products, how they can deliver services more effectively. I think, Brian talked about our research, and we have done some research that is, just provided to our funders or clients, but most of it has been public because we've received grants from philanthropic organizations to do that. We are very open to doing more research that is, let's say, privately supported, as long as we're able to keep doing all of the other public research that we make public to everybody. And we think we are in a position to provide that help and those services. At the end of the day, it's in our interest, it's in our small business owners' interest to have products that are best targeted and best focused on their needs. And so, and we find that, as I said before, that isn't always the case. It is, as you said, Dave, it's a very difficult market to understand, to crack. Your members know that. We found over time, we've had to spend a lot of time trying to sort of aggregate our thoughts about it. And when I say aggregate, I mean different pockets of the small business community have different needs, and we have to be aware of that as well. So, and we do a lot, as Brian said, in our research of slicing and dicing and oversamples to understand different needs from different parts of the small business population. So, we'd be happy to, we're excited about you having us at this conference and establishing a relationship with you. We'd be happy to talk to you and your members in more detail about how we can help, how we can partner on a whole variety of levels to not only get better information back to them, but to help actually drive better products and services to the small business community.
I think it's a great call to action. I'm gonna wind up by asking each of you in turn, because I sense so much pride and passion in what you guys are doing. You're on you have a calling, you're on a mission. What are you most proud of in the job and the role that you have right now? Ziamara, what are you most proud of?
Well, I'm proud of the work that we've been able to accomplish over the last few months. I can't tell you how many times I've answered the phone and heard that relief that someone has had in just listening, having someone who picked up the phone in the middle of a crisis. Our team worked evenings, early mornings, weekends, in some occasions, especially at the height of the pandemic, to support our small business community. It's no easy feat. I never thought of ourselves as responders, first responders, but in many ways, we were fielding questions, and folks are at the brink of losing their livelihoods, their business that they've helped build over the years. So I'm incredibly just grateful for the team and proud of the team that we have here at Small Business Majority. Our outreach and engagement team has done quite a bit to amplify those stories and humanize the economic impact that this country is feeling as a result of the pandemic.
Terrific. Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm proud of the fact that our organization was primed and in position to respond in the way that we did as soon as we did. As Ziamara mentioned, we held our first webinar 2 days after the pandemic was announced. We've always been, we have some offices, but we've also been a remote organization. So the switch to work from home was not as jarring for us as some other groups, right? So we were really in a good spot to be able to provide the assistance that was needed at this time. And it was reinvigorating for me, reinforce the importance of our mission, being able to provide even more direct support to businesses. Again, to Ziamara's point, having, being able to pick up the phone or return an email when folks again been getting stonewalled everywhere they turned, is really rewarding. So I'm just really proud of the organization that we had set up and our ability to respond the way we did.
Terrific. John, you're a founder. I know you're proud. But tell us, is there something that sticks out at this point, maybe in light of this past year, maybe it's in light of 15 years. What are you most proud of?
Well, to pick on what Brian said, incredibly proud that we were, because of all the work we've done over the prior 15 years, really, building a tremendous team. I mean, we have a tremendous, I think I said we have 25 people. We've got one person who's just about to reach 12 years, two more just about to reach 11 years, Zio is not alone in having been with us for 7 years. We have a whole bunch of people in that position. And yet we've had new blood coming in as well. So I think it's been a really healthy mix of people who've really established themselves, and as well as with new voices. I think it's the combination that got us to where we were in March, where we could really step in, of really having developed this tremendous understanding of small business, these tremendous partnerships that we immediately called into action to reach out and do what we needed to do in March. And obviously the voices of political leaders. I mean, we were able to immediately get the top economic advisors to the leadership on the Hill. We're obviously very tight with the small business committees that ended up writing a lot of the legislation on the Hill. We were immediately we had credibility. Immediately we were able to talk to them and even do events with Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer and Ranking Member Cardin from the Senate Small Business Committee. So, just having built all of that over time, not to mention the tremendous footprint we have across the country, particularly in the locations where we have offices. As Brian said, it put us in a position where we could literally, and as Leo said, two days after declaration of pandemic, we were off and running. We've done like 300 to 350 events so far. And it's because of all the hard work, because of the tremendously dedicated teams. You talk about people working around the clock. We had to tell people to take time off the first 2 months because they were just working 7 days a week. I remember, literally all day Saturday, all day Sunday, emails going back and forth. So, it took all of the work, all the great work of everybody and our partners over time to put us in that position. And as the founder and the CEO, I'm incredibly proud as I see all of these people and these pieces working together, able to come together in a crisis, both in terms of delivering resources and information and in terms of speaking with policy leaders. That's obviously incredibly gratifying. And we now need to take that and turn that into something even more meaningful as we head into a new year, both not just politically, but also the needs of small business have changed. And we really are going to be there at the center, helping to make things happen.
Well, in my humble opinion, you all should be very proud. And I'm proud to have gotten to know you. And I hope our organization and our membership really does respond and lean in and do what they can to help you on this terrific mission that you're on. Thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the passion. I appreciate your focus. As I said, it's great to expose you to our community because I think it's about time that we did. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Dave. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your members.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.